How's it going, everyone? David from dodmedia. Today we're going to be taking the Zhiyun Crane 2S and we're going to be lowering it from its default motor position to the offset lower motor position. Let's go. Now to do this, you're only going to need two sizes of Allen keys, so it's pretty minimal in tools, but it's a very delicate process. Now I've already done this once before and then I reset it once I was sure that I could actually do it so that I could make this tutorial. And when I was doing it, I nearly completely killed the entire gimbal because I nearly stripped some of the cables that are in that arm. So I cannot stress enough, be very, very careful. Okay, so to get started, you're gonna wanna lock off all the axes on the gimbal so that nothing is moving, because otherwise it's gonna make your life a little bit more difficult. And you should be able to just rest it down like this so it's resting on that corner of that roll axis arm. Now I've got my B angle up there, which I'm just going to be tweaking the focus to make sure it's showing you exactly what you want to be seeing, because otherwise you might miss it. Now I strongly recommend getting a precision screwdriver toolkit like this one, which has all sorts of micro sets for Phillips screwdrivers, flathead screwdrivers, hex, Allen, all sorts. It's got all sorts in there. Very cheap, but it makes your life a lot easier than using individual Allen keys. So the two sizes we're going to be using are a 1.5mm and a 2mm Allen key. So we're going to start with the 1.5 to take out those internal screws there. These just cover the shield which covers the actual cable that goes inside that arm that relays all of your gimbal information to the motherboard that's in the base of the gimbal, as well as powering the motors. Now, another thing I can highly recommend is a magnetic pad for all of your screws. That way, they're not going anywhere. Just gonna move that out of the way. This one seems to be a little bit threaded from the last time I did it, so I'm gonna try a hex key instead and see if I can get any leverage. There we go. And then there's one final one in here that's holding on this top cap. All right, so now we can switch it out for the 2mm head and begin removing the 8 screws which are actually holding that extension part of the arm onto the gimbal. Now when you remove the final screw in that set of 4, the gimbal's going to collapse because it's no longer being supported by the screws. So just brace it with a little hand, however big your hand is, brace it underneath that arm so that it doesn't collapse, because it might then pull on the cable and you don't want that. So then let's go ahead and take out the remaining 4 on the other side. And just remember, hold it so that it's a little bit firm when you're taking the screw out, otherwise it can just crumple and you don't want to risk damaging anything. So now, as you see, it comes apart. Now I managed to take this part off first. I'm pretty sure last time I took this part off first because this actually slots in just beneath it. However you can do it, just do it gently. Just do it as gently as you can so that that cover comes off. Let's see what other tools they have in here. That looks pretty good. Looks like it could pry something. Let's see if we can pry this. Nope, too thick, too thick. Let's take the smaller one. All right, I'm going to lie that part down. It's a little bit easier. How are we doing focus-wise? Yeah, we're still in focus there. It just doesn't want to come out. I appreciate that Zhiyun have made it possible to do this, but they've certainly not made it easy. I'm actually breaking a sweat. It has taken me 20 minutes so far, and I still can't get this thing out. Ah. I just used my nail and it flipped out. Okay, well, it's done. Now you can see where I cut through that shielding before. But now that that lid is off, this piece of arm just literally comes off nice and easily. So in theory what will happen is this will just slot in like that, which will give you that lower roll axis. So what we're going to want to do is fold this cable within there, but you want to be careful because it's very delicate. So what we'll do first is pull the cable out of the way like this, make sure that this bit is central, and just slot that in there. Now let me see if I can turn this to a way that's comfortable and that you can see what I'm doing. So you're going to want to fold this excess cable into that slot there, whilst, as I say, being careful not to, abuse it. It doesn't have to be perfectly slotted in, it just has to be enough so that this mischievous little cap can slot back on top of that, like so. Now, hold that tightly in place, get your little screw to put back in that cap and shove that on there so that it's not gonna escape again. I'm gonna put that hex back on because this seems to be the screw that I kind of threaded before. There we go. Now we're talking. Get that in there nice and snug. Okay, now you can breathe. Now let's get those 4 remaining screws in here so that it can hold that arm on nice and tightly. Nice and tight, not too tight in the beginning because you just want to be able to slot them all in, and then you'll tighten them down properly once all 4 are in. All right, nice and tight now. Make sure that they are all 4 nicely tightened down so that there isn't going to be any element of instability in your gimbal. All right, put these parts away somewhere safe in case you ever decide to reverse this process. And now you have your lowered roll axis. And it works really nicely with that lowered roll axis. And it's nice, as I say, that Zhiyun have allowed you to do this, but bloody hell, they have not made it easy, have they? So there you go, that is how you can lower your roll axis from that right angle down to a lower part so that it doesn't obstruct your screen, if that's what you want to do. Do it at your own risk and peril, and please try and use the appropriate tools and don't force it, because if you break that cable, there is nothing you can do. Your gimbal will be a brick, an ornament on a shelf, and nothing more. And as you can see, it can take a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, absolutely no problem. And I've got a V-mount solution on there and a monitor. It can handle all of that as well. And with the motor lowered down, I can see my screen if I need to. Pretty good. All right, if you found this useful, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and ring that bell. I'll see you next time. Cheers.